again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Longhorn Sports Line with head coach Mack Brown, presented by Great Southern Wood. The Longhorn football team, 3-0, and as the old saying goes, Mack, enjoying the open date on the schedule. Well, fans enjoy the open date. There's no game this Saturday. There's still work going on for your football team.
Well, there is, Craig, and you always want to win right before an open date because you don't want to be miserable for 2 weeks till you get a chance to play again, and I've tried it both ways. But we are 16-4 coming out of open dates, so we feel like that we've handled this week really well in the past. There was an open date before the Nebraska game last year, so it got us prepared. What you do this week is a lot of things that I wouldn't do during a normal week I'm doing, so it's probably a busier week for me than it is when we play outside of football because you stick them all this week. But our players, our coaches are working really, really hard to move forward. We're trying to build on the 3-0 and not be complacent and not feel too good about ourselves, but take the confidence that we've gained and move forward with the packages that we have in all three phases.
Well, in terms of review, first of all, of the UCLA game, there's a lot to be pleased with. What's the overall impression now that you've stepped back from it a few days and you and the staff have had a chance to review all of the tape and talk to the players about it? What's the overall impression you got from that game?
First thing is this is a fun team that likes to play. They like each other. The chemistry between the coaches and therefore the coaches and players is really good because there's question marks when you go on the road and you're 2 hours time change, and then you're taking a young team for the first time to a new hotel in front of fans from another school. You're just not sure how they're going to respond, and especially when you're starting new quarterbacks, two young ones. Your freshmen have never been on the road before, so it's like starting the season over. And what I found was that they answered the bell. They started quickly. Even though we were 3 and out the first series, Casey's big throw to DJ Grant, who we'll have on the show here a little bit later, was a huge play to start the game, get the momentum. We get up 7-0. We fumble a punt. We get it back with sudden change from the defense. We drive right down and score. So all of a sudden you look up, and unlike the previous 2 games, we're 21-0. And sent a message to UCLA that this isn't the same team that they played last year when they were in DKR. So I felt like that the question marks of would we be physical? Yes, we were. We rushed for 284 yards. We held them to 85 yards rushing. Complete flip from last year. It just exactly opposites as you go through. We protected the ball pretty well. We took the ball away from them. We were okay in the kicking game. Still some things we've got to get done. But overall, a great game for us. Proud to be 3-0. We've had 3 good opponents in out-of-conference schedule, and now it's time to buckle down, start over. In the next 3 weeks, we will be playing 3 undefeated teams. And I would think all 3 of those have a chance to be undefeated when we play them. So we've got to pick it up and play better the next 3 weeks to still be 6-0 at the end of this.
All right, we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the matchup to come with Iowa State a week from this Saturday. As Coach Brown mentioned, DJ Grant, the Longhorns tight end, will join us. Also, member of the Longhorn coaching staff, Bruce Chambers, will be with us as well. So we've got all of those things and more coming up. I want to remind you that our broadcast of Longhorn Sports Line with head coach Mack Brown is brought to you in part by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. Personal, dependable, affordable. It all starts with being local. Experience wellness everywhere. From IMG College, you're listening to Longhorn Sports Line on the Longhorn IMG Radio Network. Shotgun, Breho to take the snap on 3rd down and a long 8 for UCLA. Blitz look from the horns, and Breho under pressure. Down he goes. Emmanuel Acho wraps him up and drops him inside the 20-yard line. They'll mark it at the 20, but it is a loss back to the 20-yard line. Up 4 yards, and it brings up 4th down. Lowe's wants to remind you to pick like a champion today in the EA Sports NCAA Football 2012 Pick'em Contest. Visit the Lowe's Home Improvement Facebook page today to make your picks for a chance to win great prizes. No purchase necessary. See official rules at facebook.com/Lowe's. One guy who certainly played like a champion was Emmanuel Acho last Saturday. I thought he had 2 sacks. They had originally put down in the stats 1, but I remember him running down whether it was Kevin Prince or Richard Breho. He was going after both quarterbacks.
Manny and Keenan Robinson are playing at a very high level for us, and we're proud of them. Their leadership is as good or better than their play on the field. And we felt like that even though we've been disappointed that we haven't gotten as many sacks, rules have changed. Easier for the quarterback to dump the ball than it ever before, so you're not seeing many sacks. We didn't get a sack against us on Saturday with UCLA either. And secondly, we are affecting the quarterback. And when you affect the quarterback, like the interception with from Adrian Phillips, tipped by Blake Gideon, that was forced by Keenan Robinson in the defensive scheme because he hit the quarterback. He hit Prince as he was throwing the ball. So we do feel like that defensively, overall, we love the turnovers. We hope they'll start coming in bunches now. Last year we were 116th in turnover ratio. Today we're 17th, and it shows why we're 3-0, and we are taking care of the ball better. Secondly, we're doing enough things up front on on defense, that we're getting a lot of one-on-one matchups. And we feel like our guys will win those one-on-one matchups, and it makes it more difficult for people to double team. The one thing we've got to improve is when you're blitzing in all gaps and moving in all gaps all the time, you have to have great eye discipline and you have to have great gap control. Because if you miss your gap, we're seeing a 12-yard run by Franklin. We're seeing a 15-yard run by Coleman. And all of a sudden, those are really good backs. They're not making those runs when we're doing what the defense is designed to do. So that'll be one of the huge things for us to try to fix this week, is making sure that each of the defensive players is in his gap when we've got the gap control defense with multiple blitz coming.
You know, maybe we can go to a basketball, hockey, or baseball scoring system, because that would make Blake Gideon happy. He said he thought he deserved an assist on the tip ball interception by Adrian Phillips.
Well, we thought he deserved an assist as well, and we gave him that. He was a ball hawk for tipping the ball, and then he thought he would have liked to have had better blocking when he picked up the fumble at the other end, and he got crushed because he said, I was blocking for AP. I didn't see any of them blocking for me after I made my play.
Well, you brought up the thing about the sacks, and we have, as a public, a football watching public, whether it's media or fans, have become so conditioned to certain stats, and the sack stat is one of those more impressive, attractive stats in defensive football. But I was struck by something that Bo Davis, your defensive tackles coach, talked about yesterday. He said, I'm not worried. I think the word was, I'm not worried. I'm not thinking we have to get a gazillion sacks. He said, I'm not worried about that. Are we keeping the quarterback off stride? Are we making him have to do the things that are uncomfortable for him? Then we know we've been effective.
Well, and if you stop the run and get the quarterback off his rhythm, make him uncomfortable, not allow him to do the things when and like he wants to, then you're a successful defense. They changed the grounding rule now to it doesn't even have to be catchable. If you're out of the box, sling it at his feet, throw it down. So you're probably going to have to hit a quarterback from behind to get him sacked. You're not going to get many in front because they have smart enough they can get rid of the ball, and all the rules have been toward the safety of the quarterback in the last 5 or 10 years, which is fair. But it makes it harder to hit him. And they are throwing that flag quickly if you hit him and the ball's out of the hand. So it is much more difficult now for our front people and our linebackers to get sacks. But I think Bo Davis is right on. We affected their quarterbacks on Saturday. They threw us 3. And that's what a defensive scheme and defensive team should be able to do.
You know, we said before the start of the season there was a great deal of reason to feel optimistic and excited about what you had in the secondary. You had the leadership from a guy like Blake Gideon and how settling an influence he is back there. And then there's all this talent on the wings, on the corners, and you said they're young guys, but they've shown us things in practice. We'll see if they show us in the game. Well, we saw it, obviously, with Carrington Bindum, and we've seen it from Adrian Phillips. We've seen those young guys. Even Kenny Vaccaro, I still think of him as young from time to time, even though he's a veteran back there as well.
Yes, those guys are playing better than their age. They're playing older than they are. 2 interceptions by the 2 corners that you mentioned, Adrian Phillips and Carrington Bynum. And then you sit there, and young Jammer had one, Diggs, Quentin's younger brother, Quandary, had one in his arms that he just didn't quite get. And then you come back, and Kenny Vaccaro makes the play. So all of those guys, and then you add Blake Gideon to it, you add Nolan Brewster to it, and then you get Christian Scott back. All of those guys are playing really, really well. Obviously, the tempo will pick up here the next 3 weeks because these are throwing teams that are up-tempo teams, and these guys will be tested. But I think we're in a good position to try to move forward and see how we handle the next test.
One thing that Manny Diaz had talked to us about the last couple of weeks is he said, I've got guys in position to come up with an interception very early in the football game. In the first 2 weeks, it was right there, first play in a couple occasions where he had a chance. And he said, I've told him, guys, you may never have a better opportunity. And so I asked him after the game, were you pleased? And he said, yeah, about time. You know, it's 3 weeks into the season, but finally having bind and break on that early pick was something that guys are putting themselves in the right position to make that play. Then it's just a matter of finishing the play.
We have dropped balls that have been in our hands in the first 2 ball games, caught them Saturday. And I thought that was a huge difference in the ball game. I also feel like we're moving around so much on defense and giving that quarterback so many different looks that when he watches the video during the week, it affects some of his preparation because he's not sure where they're coming from. They're coming from everywhere, and I do think it makes it tougher for him to prepare when he's really not sure. Is the incoming, is both safeties coming from the boundary, one safety from the field? What are they doing here? And I think that's helping us. If you go back as a fan and ask yourself, because I've had to do the same thing, would you rather have turnovers or sacks? It's not close. We'd rather have turnovers. And then we had 2 fourth-down stops during the ball game as well, and those are like turnovers. So really, you could actually count it as 6 turnovers during that ball game because it was a change of possession.
Are we starting to see that the growth in the depth of the defensive line that you said was going to be a key going into the season from some of your guys, especially your interior defensive linemen?
We are. We played 5 defensive interior linemen on Saturday, and Ashton Dorsey, Calvin Howell, and Keyston Randall played a lot and played really well. So all of those guys played well enough for us to win. And then you've got a couple of Chris Whaley and Greg Daniels that came in and played some in the end.
Yeah, and then on your ends, I mean, we've said all along that your ends were going to be certainly one of the strengths of your defense, and they certainly haven't disappointed.
No, I thought Jackson Jeffcoat had by far his best game. Alex Okaford has been playing at a high level. And then you see Reggie Wilson coming along more, and Devontae Johnson. We got to play Cedric Reed at the end of the game. And excuse me, as a defensive tackle, I should have said Desmond Jackson because Desmond played really well. So those 4 at defensive tackle played well. Chris Whaley and Greg Daniels are still learning.
All right, want to remind you to support the UT Neighborhood Longhorns program. Every time you order Pizza Hut's spicy stuffed pizza rollers, just 4 for $5 through September 25th. So take advantage of that coming up here throughout the course of this week. Pizza Hut is the favorite pizza of the Texas Longhorns. We'll have this week's guest joining us here from the Longhorn coaching staff coming up when Longhorn Sports Time with head coach Mack Brown, presented by Great Southern Wood, continues after we pause for this on the Longhorn IMG Radio Network.